Mid-North Coast Art Society members were busy hanging more than 120 works of art at Tari's Information Centre today for their Aquatic Festival exhibition. The display is made up of 3 sections, those with an aquatic theme and works done by high school students and the Society's members. The Aquatic Art is an annual exhibition which features local seascapes.
There are some prizes in the senior section and the junior section.
The exhibition is a great chance for high school students to display their talents and even sell their works.
Yes, that's part of the philosophy of the Art Society, to encourage art, both the participation of creativity and also the appreciation of art amongst the young. So that's why the Art Society runs the art exhibition for high school students.
Nearby, the Manning Art Gallery also has a new exhibition called Flagging the Republic. 70 of the country's leading visual artists have given their views of what the Australian flag should represent, with the Southern Cross and all its forms heavily featured. The exhibition will run to the end of the month. Simone Cobb, NBN News. Jellyfish Cup.
The alarm was raised at 1:45 this morning. Firefighters arriving to find Belmont Primary School completely engulfed by flames. The blaze spread quickly through the school. 5 brigades worked for more than 2 hours to contain it, efforts hampered by the collapse of the school's roof. Bradley Fuller of the nearby Caltex service station was the first to see the smoke and raise the alarm.
There's some glass breaking on the side of the school, so I went and just looked over the fence just to check if there was vandals or something around. And I saw the classroom on fire, and then from there it started to spread to the neighbouring classrooms, and it just took a light really quickly and just went straight through the joint.
It wasn't until the light of morning that the full extent of the fire could be seen. 13 classrooms and an administration office completely gutted, the canteen and toilets damaged by smoke and water. Miraculously, the school's new library was untouched. 2 demountable classrooms and a counsellor's office were also spared. For the teachers, parents and students of the school, shock, dismay and disbelief.
I come from the Central Coast and I tried to brace myself as I was coming up and psychologically prepare myself, and nothing I did prepared me for when I came along that road and looked up and my heart just sank. Yeah, I just was shaking.
I couldn't believe it. I just shook my head. I just couldn't believe it. It was terrible. It was just shocking for the kids.
The charred remains of the school building are not the only casualty. Gone are countless files, notes and books collected over the years, resources that can never be replaced. A police investigation is underway. At this stage, it's believed a number of small fires were deliberately lit in several areas of the building. Despite the devastation, Belmont Primary plans to be up and running when Term 2 resumes in 10 days' time. Today, the school grounds were measured up, wooden pegs marking the position of 13 new classroom demountables, a portable administration office, canteen and shelter.
I got great faith in the children here. I know that we'll all come together. It'll be a together process. It'll bond us, it'll give us a destiny, and I think that's important, and I think we'll all get through it okay.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
At a cost of $6 to $8 a litre, eucalyptus oil is mainly used for pharmaceutical and confectionery products. Now, new markets are emerging, but to be viable, the price of oil needs to drop. That's why New South Wales Agriculture is investigating the commercial production of blue mallee.
All the production to date in Australia has come from wild stands of mallee, and we're looking at getting some parameters on what the plantation stands will produce.
World production stands at 3,000 tonnes a year, but Peter Milthorpe says the potential market is hundreds of thousands of tonnes, especially if the oil is used as a co-solvent in alcohol-blended fuels. And he says much of our inland cropping area is well suited to the production of blue mallee.
The cost of establishing a plantation are in the vicinity of $500 to $700 a hectare. But once that's been done and certain management practices are followed, the success rate is high, and the stand's likely to be in production for 50 years or more.
The blaze at Belmont Primary School was so intense it left little worth salvaging. The fire destroyed 13 classrooms, 3 others badly smoke and water damaged. While for most, Good Friday heralds the start of a long Easter break, for the contractors and teachers of Belmont Primary, it marks the beginning of a long and messy clean-up. And with a temporary school to be completed when holidays finish in 9 days' time, the schedule is tight.
Public works are out here, and you'd see immediately in the background they're continuing to lay the piers for the demountable buildings, the 13 classrooms and the administration block, the food service unit and 6 demountable toilet buildings.
This morning, cranes began removing the twisted iron roof from what remains of the school building. At the same time, work began on trenches for water and power, groundwork for the demountables arriving on Tuesday. For teachers, the difficult task of salvaging what little remained from the fire. For Adele Lancy, it wasn't much. Though most of the school's chairs, bookcases and tables were burnt, some furniture and a personal computer were saved. Tomorrow, a specialist cleaning company will work on the 3 downstairs classrooms which escaped major damage. Despite mobile patrols and back-to-base alarms, John Sullivan believes it's the community that plays the most important part in school security. As the chartered train from Sydney pulled into Broadmeadow Station, 1,200 scouts, packs and sleeping bags poured onto the platform. They're here to take part in the largest scouting activity for venturers and rangers in New South Wales, the Dragon Skin, a 4-day challenge held in the Wallaroo State Forest.
Lots of fun, lots of activities that teach the kids leadership, initiative, teamwork and that sort of thing.
First stop, Newcastle Police Boys Club for a briefing and a quick change of clothes. This team from Jerrabomberra near Canberra keen to stand out from the crowd. Over the next 4 days, 259 teams, with 4 to 6 members in each, will make their way across the forest's terrain. The aim, to complete the activities and reach as many bases as possible. Although the challenges are demanding, most agree that it's also a lot of fun.
They've got to get one guy across, he's got no arms. So
The Dragon Skin Trophy is a highly coveted award. In its 12-year history, no team has yet managed to reach all 52 bases.
The competition to actually win the coveted Dragon Skin is very, very fierce, yes, definitely. It is a very prestigious award for the team that wins it.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
After conceding 9 goals in their previous 2 matches, Pasminko put up an improved performance in the first term. Assisted by a strong breeze, the Roosters kept Highfield scoreless till the 69th minute. Highfields, with just 3 players from last year's team, won the match with a goal through Mick Williams and a penalty from Wayne Bailey. In bowls, the hub of the Hunter continued today with this morning's feature match between world champion bronze medalist Steve Anderson and Adam Jeffrey. Anderson prevailing 31-17 and beat Ian Taylor this afternoon to progress to the semi-finals. In the all-local affair between Brett Dupre and Tony Laguza, Dupre continued his good form with a 31-24 victory. And in Aussie rules, Newcastle City and Warners Bay did battle at number 1 Sports Ground this afternoon. Last year's premiers Newcastle City led going into the final term, but Warners Bay came home the better, taking the match 12-20-92 to 10-13-73.
The call went out at about 8:30 this morning, smoke billowing from upper floor windows of the 88-year-old building. Fire crews responded immediately, but flames had already taken hold of 2 upper floor rooms, fuelled by masses of rubbish.
There was extreme heat up on the upper floor of the building. All the fire personnel required breathing apparatus and that to get up onto the upper floor.
The 2 rooms were gutted. Firemen say there is also structural damage to one wall. Squatters are thought to have lit the fire, and Rose Cogger from the Civic Site Reference Group says it's something that's been waiting to happen. The heritage-listed building has been virtually derelict, secured only by a padlock.
I think it could have been avoided. Council should have had those buildings repaired now. This process has been going on for 3 years.
She says it was only luck that the flames were contained before spreading to the neighbouring Frederick Ash building, dating back to 1855. The group is demanding council make the refurbishment of the site a top priority. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. "55 years ago, the German and Italian armies stormed the African coast of Tobruk. It was another 2 long years before the Australian forces repelled them. Today, the faces of the so-called rats of Tobruk bear little resemblance to the young soldiers at that turning point in World War II. But while the years may have wearied them, for nearly 50 years, those who are left have turned out to remember their 776 mates who fell in the siege." Former Lord Mayor of Newcastle, John McNaughton, summed up the message of the Rats of Tobruk in a quote from Winston Churchill.
This group of more than 1,200 teenagers hasn't had much rest the past few days. The Venturer Scouts and Ranger Guides spent the weekend in the Wallaroo State Forest, completing a range of challenges as part of the annual Dragon Skin event. Teams from throughout the state, as well as Victoria and the ACT, took part in the activity, each group trying to outdo the others.
It's an initiative-based course where teams of venturers go around, in this case Wallaroo State Forest, and they attempt various challenges which accrues them points, and those points build up into a total score.
Today, the top 20 teams were rewarded with banners at a presentation ceremony in Newcastle, a group from Maxville on the mid-north coast winning the overall point score to take home the Dragon Skin. Organiser Ken Davis says most of the participants are already looking forward to next year's Dragon Skin Challenge.
There's a lot of fun. We're safe, but you can't have safety without a bit of sort of common sense, and they certainly learn a lot too. Good friendships.
Computer-generated 3D animation is adding a new dimension to movie making and is also now being used by many large corporations.
Well, it's becoming more widespread every day. People need presentations for corporate use. People are using them more and more in their own productions for home video. And I think the computers people have at home now are better suited for this kind of thing.
Edward Gallia has set up his own digital animation business in Sydney. Today he spoke of the importance and future of digital technology, addressing enthusiasts at the Australian Movie Makers Convention currently on in Newcastle. Bringing flat text or drawings to life, digital animation is now widely used in the movie industry.
There's very few movies today that are done without this kind of thing. A few years ago, it was just a couple of movies a year that were using these kind of effects. Now it would be the exception that did not.
Successful movies like the recent Toy Story and Babe used digital technology such as computer animation both to create and alter images. It's not cheap to set up, however. The basic hardware costs around $25,000 to $30,000. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
A man who's spent plenty of time in Newcastle of late, Noel Goldthorpe, was creating early problems for the Knights. The Saints unlucky not to go ahead in the opening minutes. Confusion at the back continued for Newcastle, but it wasn't as costly as a mishap in the front line. While Andrew's passing was astray, he didn't have to look beyond brother Matthew for inspiration. 6-all in the boot brought mixed results for the Saints, Jeff Hardy towing ahead for their second, while the reactions of Jamie Ainscough reeled in the cross kick before he scampered 95 metres to again square things up. But the Knights' luck ran out in the second term as Goldthorpe continued to create opportunities for the Saints. The captain's face said it all as St George posted another 3 quick tries through Wayne Bartram and forward Troy Stone. Donnelly's effort was an example of the Knights' atrocious defence, and with the Saints seemingly home at 34-12, their coach was well satisfied. Stung into action, Newcastle responded with 3 late tries, Matthew Johns and Ainscough combining on 2 occasions for the centre to bring up his hat-trick of 4-pointers. The Knights left lamenting what could have been, but for their performance in the first 65 minutes.
For Merlene, Victory Dash on the outside, running a big race. Zaya coming through near the fence, but Merlene burst to the lead, 100 out, is clear of Victory Dash, and Clang is charging along the rail, but the little Danehill filly, Merlene, is going to do it again, and Merlene, too strong, wins the sires over Clang.
Merlene, she sprinted away on top of the rise, and the others couldn't pick her up. If you've backed her, 240 the win and 140 the place. Clang got for the place, and My Duke in the brown and yellow colours just one off the rails there. He kept batting away solid.
Pounces. Moss Rocket takes the lead past the 200. Here comes Gold Ace. Gold Ace is after Moss Rocket. He's got him. Gold Ace sweeps to the lead 100 metres out, and he is annihilating them. Gold Ace is racing away, and he bolts away with the Galaxy. Identikit got up for second. Third's very tight. Moss Rocket all monopolised.
Widest out is just getting past Moss Rocket in the black cap, and that's Identikit.
Specialist assistance and counselling.
Pride of place.
To patients who have contracted the disease.
Doncaster Handicap.
Further information is available through your local.
We've got to a narrow lead over Sprint by as they get near home. Juggler is flying late. Sprint by.
We were elated. We always thought the horse had a very good winning chance. When Glenn Boss got off him on Golden Slipper Day when he ran third in the Conacher Stakes, he said this horse will win the Doncaster, and he proved very right.
Sprint by is now likely to head north for the Brisbane Winter Carnival.
The chase ended in Tuggerah Lake when the stolen laser was driven into the water and its 2 occupants tried to swim from police.
A car comes screaming down the street, drove through the trees here and straight into the water, and then next thing the cops are right behind them, chasing them flat out, and the car just landed in the water and the couple got out and started swimming. Then the police came, jumped on them, had their guns out, pointed at them.
A 24-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman, both of Wyong, were taken away for questioning. It's believed up to 20 shots were fired at 2 highway patrol cars as the chase wound its way through Killarney Vale. Police say several shots hit houses in the area, but no one was injured. In the car, police found coins, cash, alcohol and cigarettes. They also found 3 firearms, including a shortened shotgun and a pistol, and balaclavas and rounds of ammunition. Just half an hour earlier, the local bottle shop and a customer were robbed of $3,000. In court today, Ty Bile and his de facto wife, Kathy Wheeler, a mother of 2, were charged with more than a dozen offences, including the attempted murder of 3 police officers and armed robbery. They were refused bail and will reappear in Wyong Court at a later date. Police are continuing their inquiries. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
There were promising signs for the Breakers in the first half. Adam Fiddick foiling record-breaking goal scorer Damien Morey, while Jason Bennett's remarkable seated strike almost put them ahead. Bennett was just as decisive minutes later, providing this measured cross for Scott Thomas. The Breakers held on to the 1-goal advantage till a mix-up at the back proved costly, and when Morey added to his growing season tally, the game had turned in Adelaide City's favour. An unfortunate own goal put the game beyond the Breakers' reach, with Brad Hassel adding another in the 78th minute. To their credit, Newcastle fought on and reproduced some of the form that gave them a 1-0 advantage for most of the match. Adam Sanderson finally rewarded. The coach happy but still striving for the elusive 90 minutes of consistency.
We took control for the first 45 minutes, totally, and even the first 10 minutes of the second half. Once they scored though, and it happens every week, we let 1 in, we let 2 in. We do tend to go to sleep a bit. We can't consolidate, and that comes with experience.
Today there was plenty of sand at Stockton Beach as families and children made the most of the sun. But according to Surf Club captain Noel Burns, it's only a temporary reprieve from the area's worsening erosion problems. Recent heavy seas sucked much of the sand from the beach, ripping into the bank and threatening the Surf Club's safety.
If we get some big seas, it only takes one night and all the sand that we've collected over 2 months is gone again, and then we're back in trouble again.
A number of long and short-term solutions have been put forward by Newcastle City Council's Coastal Management Committee. One suggestion involves using sand and stone to build an artificial offshore reef to provide a buffer against heavy seas. Building an underwater reef would also please local surfers and fishermen. The only obstacle to the project is the cost, with some estimates around $6 to $8 million.
I think in the long term it would cost too much money, government-wise and council-wise. I don't think they'd spend that sort of money.
Another meeting is being held next Tuesday to discuss the erosion problem. While sandbags may provide a temporary solution, Mr Burns feels the Surf Club may eventually be forced to relocate. Emma Siossian, NBN News. There were plenty of smiles and hugs today as the band arrived home to a crowd of parents at Lambton High School. A few furry pals were also on hand to add their greeting. The marching koalas have been on a 6-day visit to Auckland, taking some well-known Australian tunes throughout the city streets. It's the 7th national tour the Combined High Schools Band has been on in the past 14 years, and the band conductors are more than happy with the results.
One of the most successful trips we've ever had. Had them really eating out of our hands. The performances that the kids gave at the Royal Auckland show were just fantastic. 1 minute there was nobody in the stand, the next minute the stands were full.
One of the highlights I think for me was not just the tour itself, but the interaction with the kids and other students from another country.
And it seems some of the local customs have rubbed off on the students, who today performed a traditional Maori war dance. Emma Ossian, NBN News. The Lambton swimming pool was built in the early 60s. Over recent years it has suffered from a lack of maintenance, with the local Chamber of Commerce pushing to have the complex upgraded. The Chamber would like to see the pool heated, arguing that for much of the swimming season the water temperature is below 21 degrees. A recommendation by Newcastle City Council's Community Development Committee that the pool be upgraded is going before a full council meeting tonight, with local residents hopeful of a positive decision. Meanwhile, the fate of the Lambton Library could also be decided tonight. The closure of the library, which operates out of the old council chambers, has been recommended. The council says the library isn't used enough, but the Chamber of Commerce says the building serves an important role in the community and should stay open.
It's a very important part of the Lambton community. The school children use it after school for doing research. Elderly folk use it after they've collected their pension checks. They come down and take a book out.
Mal really put on a brave face today following the shock 34-30 loss to St George. Despite poor performances from several individuals, the coach has opted to give most a second chance.
I'm really showing faith in the players, to be honest. I mean, the one kid who's been omitted from the side, Andrew Hodge, really didn't do anything wrong.
But not enough to keep his place, which has been taken by Owen Craigie. That's the only change in the backs, while up front Tony Butterfield moves into the starting side with Glenn Grief back on the bench. But the lack of changes came with a distinct warning to several high-profile players.
Obviously, there's 2 or 3 players that have got to produce the goods, otherwise they'll be playing a little bit earlier in the day.
Making his return to the club, Mariners player Robbie Mccormack has been named on the bench for reserve grade, while Brad Godden will start the match in the centres.
At the New South Wales Violence Prevention Awards today, Police Minister Paul Whelan spoke of the need to find new ways of reducing violent crime. Part of that strategy is encouraging police and community groups to go beyond merely patching up the symptoms.
It's very important to focus on the causes of crime.
One award winner doing just that is the Jasper program at Gateshead High School, which aims at rehabilitating chronic truants. The scheme involving police, school teachers and welfare workers has been a huge success. 5 participants have now passed their school certificate and a number of others are on their way to achieving the same goal.
Their attendance rates have gone from 0 at school to an average of about 88%.
School teacher Rob Mooney says 2 years ago these teenagers were street kids. Jasper has won $5,000 for its achievements. It says it'll use that money to help more kids get back on the right track for a secure future. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Knowing the rivalry between Sydney and Newcastle, I don't think carnage might be the correct word, but it'll certainly be a very physical game.
Newcastle Council has been spending more than it earns. Its loss of $10 million on an earthquake insurance payout case has now made the financial strain so great that it's desperate to bring in more money. The sale of assets like the Civic Arcade is on the agenda, so too an increase in fees and charges. And the reintroduction of parking meters in the CBD is looming larger than ever as a means of raising another $600,000 a year.
So it's not just a matter of getting revenue, it's a matter of using our spaces more effectively.
Well, if he's going to use that type of line, then obviously he's got to use it for the whole business community of the Newcastle City Council area, and therefore to bring in areas such as Mayfield and Hamilton, the Junction, etc.
The Chamber of Commerce says councils shouldn't regard parking meters as an easy measure to help balance its books. It's also concerned that council accountants are turning their eyes on local landmarks, like the Queen's Wharf Tower.
The problem about Queen's Wharf is that the wharf and the tower are the most expensive things to maintain, and they don't actually produce us any revenue.
Council's thinking of lowering the tower to save on maintenance costs. The Chamber argues it reflects a penny-pinching mentality which won't solve council's large-scale financial woes.
But I think there needs to be some real thinking done on rather than knee-jerk reactions, which we believe the council may have done in relation to these suggestions that have been floated in the last couple of days.
From the harbour foreshore and beaches to Blackbutt Reserve and countless parks and sporting fields, Newcastle boasts an open space inventory that's virtually unrivalled. The City Council spends around $7.5 million each year managing its open space holdings. Local communities, sports organisations and user groups are now invited to have their say in the allocation of resources in a new master plan.
We've put in the plan a section for informal recreation users that hasn't been there before, and we also want the community to be more active in the development of their parks.
Studies have already identified walking and cycling as among the most popular recreation activities in Newcastle. The new plan should ensure there's plenty of well-managed open space for enthusiasts to explore.
The benefits for the community of getting out, walking, cycling, doing things themselves rather than moving from the sofa by the television set to the wheel behind the car and doing nothing much else, is going to have tremendous benefits in the future.
The draft plan is being exhibited for public comment until the end of May.